What is up and good evening? As you guys can see, the day has passed and today is the long awaited VQ35DE rebuild. As you guys saw in the teardown video, we were changing the head gaskets, and yes, I already have the head gaskets on here right now. I'll explain why in just a second, but we are going to be putting this all back together and making it functional because we are waiting for the Project Z to be a running, driving car, because I know, like you guys know, I want to be driving, I want to be drifting, and I want to be making videos doing it. So before we do that, we got to get the engine together, and this is going to be the how-to on how to put the engine together, timing marks, show you everything that goes together step by step. So if you guys are using this as a reference, you guys can follow this along and see just how to change a head gasket from a block and build it back up, making sure that the timing is right and that everything is glued together and all that. But enough of me talking, let's get into this. Okay, first things first, this has been a long overdue video, and I know you guys have been seeing in the back of my other videos, this engine just kind of chilling here. You've seen all the parts strewn about, probably growing as you guys have watched the videos and wondering when this is going to be put together and when I'm going to be getting on this. I have been busy, so I'm doing it now. But another reason is I wanted to make sure that I had some parts to get together and make sure that I was able to clean properly, take off the old FIPG, which is form in place gasket. Excuse me, I'm a Toyota tech. So it's the old silicone, the gray silicone that goes, you know, in all of the groove parts, that goes and secures all of the coolant passages and everything like that. So there has been some prep involved. As with any build, you guys know it's supposed to be as clean, as neat as possible. No left residue. You can see all along the edges and all of that. Everything's clean. I've used brake clean on them. I've made sure that there's no dirt, debris, anything on any of the parts that's gonna get new silicone gasket or is gonna be touching like fresh oil or anything like that. So we've done that, and now to move on, why the head gaskets are out already. Because they're different, and I wanted to make sure that each one of these was for the right one. As you guys can see, I went with the Cometic gasket. These multi-layer steel, they're 30 thousandths inch multi-layer steel head gaskets, are probably the best head gaskets you can get on the market. A lot of people that use Cometic head gaskets are building big, like V8, huge high horsepower, you know, builds and stuff, and Cometic head gasket has always been there. I used to be a machinist, and we would always use that no matter what build we use. My cousin swore by the Cometic head gasket, and so yeah, so I'm using them too. I've had nothing but good luck with them, and so we're gonna use them. One thing I wanted to point out for these, if you guys saw when I just zoomed in on it, you can see that it says VQ37 VHR 97 millimeter. These are the right ones for the VQ. I guess they have gone through a couple different revisions on these, seeing how that the block layout and all that is the same as the VQ37. These are actually like a 2.5, I think is what they say, a 2.5 ply multi-layer steel head gasket. It has two different layers, and then on the inside it has a certain layer that crushes. Like I said, this is like the V3, the version 3 of them. They've gone through different things. You can see the passages through here aren't open anymore. They're just little dots to keep everything contained. So these are supposed to be like the creme de la creme, like badass head gaskets. So I'm gonna give them a whirl and see. The old ones that we had, you can see, are very much different. They're a factory multi-layer, I think they're multi-layer, yep, they're multi-layer steel, but they don't look anything like the Cometic ones. You can see they're actually a lot more open. So these are supposed to be doing better, so those will go in the trash. Next, you can see on this bank, this head is shorter, this head is much longer on the driver's side, so the head gaskets are different. So that's why I opened the packages. I wanted to make sure that they didn't send me two of these or the wrong ones or whatever, so I laid them out. Other than that, I've done literally nothing. I made sure that the gasket surface is clean. You guys can see, you always make sure that you wipe it down, scrape off any debris, don't mar the head up, and I also use like an alcohol, acetone, and then dried it off completely. So these are pretty much ready to go. I did the same with the heads. I actually have them over here. They're in here, cleaned up. I got them machined over at Napa Auto Parts. They have a machine shop, so they were able to take off on the bottom. Anytime you pull a cylinder head, I highly recommend you get it resurfaced, so that way you know it's true and flat. But yeah, these are ready to go together. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna slip the heads on, put them over the studs. If you guys are not using studs, these are ARP studs. They were on here already. My boy Julian installed them when he did the engine rebuild with a 0-mile motor. So you guys can see the cylinders look really good. I might use a little bit of WD-40 and spray it in here. This has been sitting for a little while, and then using the crank, you can see the crank bolt is in here, and just making sure that the cylinders, you know, get an even coat of WD-40 real quick. So I'm probably gonna do that first, and then we're gonna set the heads down, and we're gonna start getting this build together. Okay, so you guys can see, I kind of just will squirt a little bit on the ones that are open right now. So it's just this one and that one that aren't. I'm gonna grab this and just start to kind of rotate. Everything sounds good, everything looks good. It's kind of just putting a coating on the cylinders. So we'll make sure that these ones go down. There are companion cylinders, which these are, so you can see that they're both down. Obviously it'll be different strokes, but you can then shoot this in here, shoot this in here, and I know, ugly job, but whatever. And then we'll rotate this around a little bit more, making sure everything's nice and glass. Let's see. Okay, so there's a good coating on it. So as it goes together, if it is sitting for a day or two, it's not gonna get all dried out. That's the main thing, the only reason why I'm really doing this. So now, time to use two hands and set the heads on. Okay, the cylinder heads, not real hard to do. You can see this side is substantially bigger than this one. So they only really go on one way. You want the cams to be towards the front, obviously. So all I did literally was set them on there. If you have everything still laid out, all in your, you know, orientation, this will be on the one side, this will be on the other side. You can see that the cams are even longer. So this one will obviously be on the driver's side. That one will be the passenger side. And then I have the hardware. So if you're using ARP hardware, you have a washer and you have a nut that is a 13mm and it's a 12-point, so make sure you guys have a 12-point socket. And then we're gonna put them all on hand tight, and then we're gonna use the torque specs with a torque wrench and go through the proper procedure doing that. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay these, I'll show you how we do this, and we'll just lay it over in there and then put it on. But I'm gonna wipe these off because they do have old oil and I don't want any contaminants in the engine at all. Now with the cylinder heads on, you can see I put the washer down and the nut is on, but it's just barely hand tight. I don't want to be crushing the gasket at all yet. So I've done it on all of these. So I know that it's sitting flat and flush, no issues. I didn't have any binding. So now the next thing to do is I have to follow the procedure in order to do the torque procedure. The way that it goes is pretty much here, 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 something along those lines. I'm gonna mark on here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that way, just for visual purposes, it's not something you guys have to do if you're putting them together, but for visual purposes, for the purpose of this video, I'm gonna do the torque procedure 1 to 8 so you guys know exactly which one to do, and it follows suit the same on both heads. Okay, so this is the driver's side, the cams facing forward. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I pull this back, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the driver's side. If you come over here, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. If I pull it back, this is on the passenger side. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is the proper torque specs. So the way to properly do the VQs on factory head studs, not ARP, I believe you torque them all down to 75 foot-pounds, and then you back them off completely, and then you'll go down to 33 foot-pounds, and then you'll go back through them after you've done 33 all the way around, and you do a 90 on the torque wrench on all of them, and then you go back and do another 90. So that's for factory head studs. On these ones, you'll do it in 3 different increments. So the first one is to 33 foot-pounds. Follow the procedure, do them all. Then you'll go to 65, and then you'll go to 95. The proper torque on these is between 90 and 95. I like 95. It's a good number. It's tight. Make sure everything's done. So you do that on both of these. So I'm gonna do that now. I really need to like concentrate and make sure that I hit them all and do it all. So I'm gonna do that with the torque wrench and make sure, like I said, 33, 65, 95. So we're gonna get these bolted down and in their final resting spot. Also, confirming my work, I was looking at the factory head studs. That is the proper procedure, but there's actually more to the procedure. So do not go off of all of that. Please look up the factory Nissan head stud procedure if you're using factory head studs. I really prefer using ARP, so if you're going to be doing this much, I would go with ARP head studs. The tensile strength is way more. You don't have to worry about stretching, and if you're doing a better head gasket, these clamp tighter and are better anyway. But if you are going to use factory Nissan head studs, I would go with the procedure that I told you starts the procedure, but there's actually like 4 or 5 other steps. So make sure that you go and check the torque procedure if you're using factory head studs. Cylinder heads all torqued. Starting to look like an engine again. If you guys noticed, I did get new mounts. These are the Z1 poly mounts. I also have the trans one. I was gonna show you guys, but it's really not that big of a deal. But look at how clean it looks. And I painted these just for aesthetics, even though the header's gonna cover it, but I mean, it's the little details that you know, right? So cylinder heads are all now torqued down. I used the 3-step method, like I said, the 33, then the 65, and then the 95. And so all of these are completely done. One thing that I was gonna mention to you, that for every inch of extension that you use on a torque wrench, you add 3 foot-pounds. So you're using a 3-inch extension and a stub, 13 millimeter. Obviously you'll add, for the 3 inches, you'll add 9 foot-pounds to each one of your settings. So just a little tip. I found it works really well. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our cams. I still need to get these cleaned up. And another thing we need to do also is the caps. You need to make sure that the caps are the correct direction and orientation on how they are here. It does matter for the roundness of the cam. If you mix them up, it could cause really bad issues. So you can see on here, actually, there's an A. It's kind of hard to see. There's an A, there's a B. Man, come on, focus. There's a B right there, I promise. Anyway, they're all upside down, and then there's a D, E, and F. So when the machinist decided to take the cam caps off, he stamped them, and he stamped them actually like this. So we know A, B, C, D, E, F. So that's how we're gonna put them in. Upside down, as we're looking at like this, will be exactly how we install them after we put the cams in. Another thing that I use is engine assembly lube. Make sure you get something like this. Lube up the cam, lube up the journals, lube up the top of the lifter, everything here. Make sure that it's all greased up because it is metal on metal, and you guys know about friction, so make sure that you do that. So I'll be applying heavy amounts of this too, not too heavy, but want to make sure that everything's nicely coated on all of it, and then setting the cams in and torquing these down. I'll get the torque specs for you on these in just a second. All right, so I do believe the cams only go in one way, but in case you figured out how to force it and make it go in by some chance that I don't know how you did it, you can check and see which cam goes where. If you look on the back of the cam here, you can see that there's teeth actually on this one, and this one is smooth. If you line up the one that has the cam sensor just do the cam sensor one with the teeth. So it's as easy as that. So now we're gonna take these off, we're gonna lube everything up, and then we're gonna put them on and torque the caps down. Cams all in, ensuring this says L, M, P. They don't do an M and an N so you don't get them mixed up. K, J, and G. These are right side up because of how it was taken off. They made sure all of them were right side up. This one obviously was upside down, but it says A, B, C, D, E, F, all upside down, all installed. You can see that the teeth is the one with the cam sensor, teeth, and then these ones are smooth. So these are set to go. I'll have to set the orientation of the cams by using, you can see right here, this is to put like a crescent wrench on and turn ever so slightly to be able to set the cams where you need them. Only use them for that. Do not use them to tighten it down. You can break the cam, the bolt, or something along those lines. So it's just to rotate them. And now it's gonna be time to, I think, get these caps on, set the tensioners, and then we're gonna put the back part of the timing cover on. Okay, this is the way that you have to do this. To put the tensioners in before you put the last cap on, as you guys can see, this has an O-ring on here. It actually sits over it, and you will not get to these bolts after the caps go on. So make sure you install the tensioners, tighten them down, and then you'll be able to put on the final cap and then the rear timing cover. So just wanted to make sure you guys knew that. So I'm gonna put them on now. Cam caps now installed. Now it's starting to look like an engine. Now it's starting to look like we can start getting somewhere. So one thing to double check, make sure the O-rings are in here, in here, in here, in here, this one and this one. So everything looks good. So now we can get ready to put the back cover on. So what we're gonna do is you wanna make sure that anytime any metal is touching metal where there could be a break where it can lift or separate is where you put the new gasket. So we're gonna make sure that there's new gasket here, and then we're gonna also make sure that there's new gasket all around here. I'll do it on the cover so you guys can see. But anywhere fluid is gonna be, we wanna make sure that there is the silicone stuff. And we're gonna use it in a caulking gun, and I'll show you, this is actually the Nissan stuff we'll be using. Big shout out to my homie, Mr. Sheldy. Sheldon got me this. And it's just, this is actually coming in handy big time. So thank you for this, brother. You can pick it up at Nissan. It's the liquid gasket stuff. And this should be enough to do this one whole project, including the oil pan. So we're gonna use this. I'm gonna open it in just a second, but I'm not gonna open it until I'm completely ready to use it. So if you look on the back of the timing cover, the rear timing cover, you can see where all of these squiggly lines, these grooves are, is where you're gonna put all of the gasket making sealer. So you'll do it all along here. That's anywhere it's going to be under pressure where fluid can leak out. So these will actually seal off the back here and here. You'll seal off where the water pump goes here, and then you'll seal off for here. And there'll also be a front timing cover. So it's actually not going to be all the way. So we're only going to put it right here for right now. But since the two surfaces will meet down here at the bottom, we're also going to make sure that there's plenty in here. Okay, and I have laid out, there's 8 short bolts. Let me show you the size difference between the short and the long. It's not a huge difference, but there is. The short bolts go around here and here. There's 8 of them. There's 8 of these that will go around the water pump. You can see, I'll have to move this. I kind of moved this out of the way. It's just sitting there. That's not how it's supposed to go. But the 8 bolts will go around here, which will go around here. And then there is actually 3 of these short ones that go here, here, and here, and that will be the back timing cover being held on. Okay, rear timing cover is now on. You can see all of the bolts are all secure. Everything's on, and the only reason why I moved this guide is because you can see I couldn't get to that bolt if you look at it head on, so I just took these 2 12s out, but this is how the guide sits for the timing chain. Everything is all together. You can see like the squish, when it squishes together, it pushes out. This might be a little excessive. What you want is about that. But if it's a little more than that, it's not a big deal. Same with inside, you can see that there is a seal all the way around on both sides. And then it's also behind the water pump. But unfortunately, I can't see really behind there. Maybe you can a little bit down there. But we know that that's good and sealed. I put plenty of the silicone gasket on the back side, on the block itself, and on this cover, and squished it together. So there's also in between here, following up. So this should be completely sealed on the rear. Now it's time to set the chains and put the gears and everything together. All right, this is a part a lot of you get kind of anxious about: setting the cams, setting the timing. First thing to do, this is the passenger side bank. You can see that I have the dowel pin straight up with this line, and I also have the bigger hole on the bottom here and the upper one right here straight up and down with this line as it goes this way, meeting to the line on each top. Then if we come here, you can see I have, because the chain was off, I could use the 2 orange dots to match with the 2 orange dots here. And if you come around the back, let me figure out how to do this for you real quick. You can see that on here, this orange one lines up with the dot on the back of that. Also, you can see that the pin here will mount and meet up with the top hole, also with that dot on the top of the cam gear right here, will meet up with on top here. So the way that you put these on is kind of finessing. You kind of have to like walk it on together and then kind of slip it over, because the chain doesn't stretch and this doesn't stretch, and it has to be exact. So you gotta kind of set them on together, and then we'll put the bolts in and tighten it down. So this will be the first set. You can also see that the 2 lines here are facing inward, just as reference point, and then this obviously is straight up and down. This is straight up and down with a dot here. So we're gonna take this, put it up there. Okay, and now to double check my work, we can see, you know what, let me get a flashlight real quick so we can really see, so you guys can really see. You can see that the orange is on the dot on the cam gear. Let me try and make it where you can see. Man, this is difficult. There you go. You can see the dot and the orange. The 2 dots here match with the orange. The pin is straight up and down, and then this dot is obviously matching to the line in the back. So we know that these are completely set. We're gonna do the same for this side, and then after those are all together, then it'll be easy to put the full timing chain on that goes across all of them, down over the water pump, and then to the tensioner and up. So let's get these gears on so we can get this together. All right, now we have both cams. You can see the lines are straight up and down with the dot on top pointing to in the back. Same here. You have the 2 dots on this side. See if it's like, I'm trying to make it real easy for you guys to see. So the 2 dots, and then we have the single dot, and then we have the single dot on the cam with the orange there, and the 2 dots there. The 2 dots are going to be on the inside on this one because they are the same gears, so the lines are going to be on the driver's side on the outside. But you can see that this dot lines up with the line in the back. This dowel pin lines up directly with the line in the back. So these are all set. So now what we can do is we can put the tensioner, the guide, and the chain on. We'll also set the crank. You can see where, sorry, it's like dark, so it's a little bit harder to do, but you can see where the top part here, the inside lines to the line on the oil pump. And then there will also be a dot down here. You can see on the gear, that's where the orange on the timing chain will go. But let me set it all up and then I'll show you. As far as the guides go, there really isn't a whole lot of moving parts once you get the cam gears on. You can see they have their own chains. So the one that goes across here and down is really not that big of a deal. So you have an 8mm hex that goes right here just above the oil pump. This is free floating. You have the 210s here. You have to collapse this. So if you pull back on this little tab right here and push in on this, it pulls it away from the teeth, and this lines up with the hole. So once you get it down, you can put the T-pin in and it'll hold it there. So that way this is collapsed in enough for you to set the chain. Then the chain is literally gonna, you'll match up the orange here, you'll run it around, up over, and make sure that the orange lines up on this one and on this dot. and as it comes down, make sure the guides are staying. You can see on the inside of the guide, it actually has like a raised bump, that the chain stays on the middle of the raised bump, comes down, goes over the water pump, and then goes back around. So after that's all set, you'll literally pull the pin and this will tighten and the timing will be set. And this is the final product. You can see everything on the timing chain. So the keyway will be pointed up towards the line right here on the oil pump. There is a notch down here. Let me see if I can grab the flashlight. You can see where the notch is at. The orange matches up. You follow this up. The purple dot, sorry, I was calling it orange earlier. I knew one of them was orange, but the purple dot is now with the line and the dot. You have the 2 bolts here. There's an FR on the front here, you can see, so it means facing front. The purple is on the dot with the line. And then we have the tensioner and back down. So everything's all done. Last thing we do, pull this, and now everything should be taut. Sometimes I'll take like a mini screwdriver or something and I'll kind of just push on this a little bit to make sure this stays nice and tight, but it's taut. Everything should be just in place, no issues. So now the only other thing to do is to put on all the silicone gasket maker all the way around this and seal this all up. There is a rubber seal that has a little nipple on the bottom. You'll see on the timing cover where it goes, but this will squeeze up in there and this actually sits in here. We're still going to put the silicone gasket in here and on these corners because obviously it's a broken spot where 2 pieces are coming together, which would be, you know, apt to leaking. So we'll make sure that that's all sealed up and then we'll put it across here into the corners here and then we'll go up and around. Whoo, and look how pretty she looks. Timing cover on. I just set the valve covers on here. This little thing snapped off, I guess, during shipping, but it fits like almost exact. So I'll probably super glue that back. It's just a breather tube. It's not a real big deal. So I'm also covering this so that way nothing gets in, but she looks super good. Everything squeezed together nice. You can see that bead is like perfect that you want out the top. I kind of hit it with my hand a little bit, but everything around is all squeezed nicely, tight. You can see the rubber seal is in there, nice and tight in there, and glued in, and then everything else is all buttoned up. So we're gonna call it a night. I'm gonna continue on this in the morning, so you guys are gonna see just right now, and it's a new day. We are gonna get started on the oil pan, and then we're gonna do the intake stuff. I ran by the store today and got the new gasket stuff for the intake. We're gonna put the fuel rail on. The only things that I have done, I didn't show you, is I glued the new thermostat on. They come with a paper gasket, and I really hate the paper gasket, so I actually use this. It's from Toyota. It's super long life coolant silicone gasket, so the coolant doesn't eat through it. It's really strong stuff. And the other thing that I did is I put the cam sensors in. The reason why I put them in before I showed you, because I wanted to show you that the orientation on the driver's head is sticking up, and then the one on the passenger is flat. So that way you know which one is which. So we're gonna flip this thing over. Oh, also make sure before you do anything in the valley at all that you plug in the knock sensor with the knock sensor harness. It's got a light blue end and it's got a dark blue in here, because it's gonna make your life hell if you try and do it after the intake and stuff is on. Okay, so now we can flip this upside down and we'll put the oil pan on. All right, actually before we get started, before I flip this over and we do the oil pan, I figured once I turn it over, this was gonna fall off, so we might as well seal these down. There's nothing else we need to do inside here. These are actually really nice. I got them off of Amazon and they actually come with like new hardware, so it'll look nice. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna glue these down and bolt them down. The reason why I say glue them down is because in the corners here, like I was saying with the timing cover, anytime that there is a break where the metal is at, you wanna make sure that you have some of the silicone gasket on this side, on this side, on this side, and on this side. So we're gonna put that down first, the silicone stuff, and then we'll push these on. Make sure that you lube the O-rings on the gasket side. Use a little bit of engine oil or something like that so it slides down over this. You don't want to tear them, because if it tears, then the oil is going to go in the spark plug tubes. Which reminds me, I also got new spark plugs, NGK Iridiums. These are the best ones. I swear by these. These are the ones that I put in every engine that I use. These ones for this are the LFR 5AIX-11s. This is a factory heat range, and then I have the 6 coil packs that we'll put in also. So I'm going to be using this. You guys see, I'm not making it up. See, FIPG. That's why I call it FIPG, because that's what it is. But it's for oil pan, camshaft housing, that type of stuff. It's just a silicone gasket, but it's like the best silicone gasket you can buy. Actually, I really think that the Permatex one that you buy from like an O'Reilly's or something like that is actually the same formula. So I just have a hookup through Toyota, so I have a whole bunch of these. But we're gonna be using this silicone. We're not gonna use the gray stuff. The gray stuff is like stuff to do like timing covers and stuff like that. This gets really hard, and I mean, these would rip and break if you tried to take them off. So we're gonna use a little bit softer stuff for the corners, and we're gonna put these down. Okay, so now I laid down the silicone. You can see where it's at. You don't have to use a whole lot. I just make sure that I kind of follow it out a little bit and follow it up a little bit, just so I know that that whole area is gonna be sealed. Everywhere else is all flat, so the gasket should just seal all of that. So now I lube this up a little bit. You can kind of see there's a little bit of oil on there, a little bit of oil on here, and then we'll push it down and we'll use the new bolts, the new hardware, to tighten it all down. Valve covers are all on, all tightened down. You can see there's no gaps. Okay, so I have a confession. There is an inch-pounds like torque spec to these, and I gotta be real with you, I don't even use it. And let me show you why. So these bolts right here, you can see how there's a collar, like a step where they stop. It's been my experience in doing valve cover gaskets. I've been doing this for about 16 years, 17 years. Once the collar hits and bottoms out, sorry, on the head, then that's it. That's where I stop. Once I know that it's there, I give it a little snug and I'm done. I've done the inch-pounds, I've done the sequence and all that type of stuff. Sometimes they won't go all the way in, you know, if there's like a little bit of resistance when you're screwing it in, or there just could be some issues. So I'll still do the sequence where I kind of follow along and do this. However, as soon as the collar hits the head, I'm done. I stop. I know that that's enough, that it'll sit down, and that'll be that. So that's the reason why I don't use a torque spec. If you guys are not comfortable with that, there is a torque spec you can look up. But when it comes to the valve cover gaskets and these type of bolts with the collars, that's why I don't use it. Okay, now it's time to put in the spark plugs, and then we'll put the coil packs on, and essentially the top part for right now will be done. Spark plugs in, coil packs in. So now we can do the oil pan. All right, having the motor upside down, I wanted to make sure that you guys remember to put in the 12s that go through the pans. Also this long 12 right here, and the one on this side. This one probably wasn't needed to take out. Actually it was because of the cover. So this one, these, and then these 3 right here. Make sure those are back in so everything is tight, squeezed together, and then now we can put the oil pan on. Oil pan all on. You can see all the squeeze. Maybe that was a little bit too much right there. But if you follow around, you can see everything is completely sealed. All right, engine flipped right side up. We are going to grab our new gaskets. This is a gasket kit, an intake manifold gasket kit from O'Reilly that I got. It's a Felpro kit. I love the Felpro kits because they're all metal. It's just like OEM spec, so it's about 56 bucks, not a big deal. It takes care of everything, from the lower all the way to the upper. So the first thing we're gonna do is we are gonna grab these metal ones, and we're going to set them in there just like that. They have a raised edge, so when they crush, you know that they're gonna seal well. So the metal, God, it's really hard in my gloves. There we go. This way, I believe. There we go. So you can see they fit really nicely, sit in there. So now we can take the lower part of the manifold, we can put the fuel rail on it, and I'm gonna put it all together as one on here, and then we can bolt it down. All right, trekking right along. You can see now I have the injectors in, the injector harness. Also, I put on the new gasket up top. You can see that there are actually arrows that are pointing towards the front, so you know which way it goes. It'll only go the one way as long as the arrows are pointing to the front. So injector harness is in. Also on these, you can see that there is a little black spacer under all of the 12mm bolts. Make sure that spacer's in or the injectors won't sit right. So now we have everything kind of plumbed. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the lower part of the upper intake manifold on, and then we're gonna put the main intake manifold on, and this will wrap up this project as far as the rebuild with the head gaskets. Everything else will be accessories and like little stuff, but this was the how-to on how to do the head gasket. All right, I have the upper manifold on. I put the 10s, the front and the back. I wanted to show you that the gasket goes on first before you put anything else on. And then also a plate that you see a lot of them have arrows that will sit on here like this. And then there will be 6 bolts that go through here, and that bolts this down, and then the upper plenum will go on top of over this, and then the bolts will go around here and through the middle to do these ones. So I'm gonna get the bolts. They're these silver ones, or not silver, these gold ones. And you'll put it in here, in here, in here, 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 and the last one right here. So now you'll torque this, these 6, and the last one back here down, and that will hold the manifold here, and then we'll put the upper one on. All torqued down. You can see how the plate goes over. Now the last thing is to set that beautiful manifold on top, get all the bolts in, and tighten it down. And that will conclude the head gasket video for today. All right, and give you guys a final look at the end product. Man, this looks super good. I'm gonna be getting a carbon fiber like cover, and then obviously the supercharger will be on here. I'm sure some of you are probably wondering like the black and white, like it looks kind of weird, Stormtrooper, whatever. Just wait till you see how it looks when it goes in the car. I have a vision and I think it's gonna look so sick. But that's it. I think we're gonna wrap it up for today. I could keep going. I could put the coolant pipe on and that type of stuff, but that's really not stuff that's really necessary for head gasket installation and the technical part. I'm sorry if some of the stuff on here seemed a little bit dry. It is an informational video, and I hope it's really helped you guys put it together, understand how it goes together, and are able to use it for reference. So I think I'm gonna keep kind of putting the stuff together because I am still working on Project Z. I wanna get it together, and we have lots more to do, lots more to go, and lots more videos to make for the progress of the project. So yeah, I think I'm gonna call it a wrap. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, thank you so much for the support and the DMs and the love. You guys are constantly on it, and it just means so much to me. Also know that if you guys have any questions about how the engines go together, technical support stuff, always DM me on my Instagram at The Crooked King, and or leave me comments and stuff here. I'd love to talk with you guys, help you guys build stuff like this, and I don't know, I love doing this. I love making these videos for you. So I hope you guys are having a great week, and I hope everything has been going well for you. So till the next video, much love, peace, and take care.